And welcome to another video. And today I'm sweating like a pig. May it's hot today. And also I'm going to show you today how I made this huge sword made out of foam, warbler and a lot of other materials would pretty much make it never see a convention due to their weapon rules and regulations. Yeah, let's not talk about that. But anyways, so since this is one of the first foam props I made, which is like years ago, I don't have any video footage of it, but I took some pictures of the process, so I'm gonna blend them in as I'm talking. So the first thing we need is a blueprint. You could either like do it freehand, but I prefer working with a blueprint. Let's head over to the computer and I'll show you how you make a blueprint. Now for making the blueprint, the first thing you want to do, or you need, is you need a reference picture. For World of Warcraft reference pictures, I would recommend WoW-Head, because now I can go in and search for the Ashbringer, which I already did, so I got it here, my item. Database, item, weapon, two-handed swords, or you can just go use the quick bar search. Now I go on View in 3D. Now I go on Artifact Appearance, Shattered Reckoning, any color, it's not important here, turn it. And this is just a sword, but now I need some like size reference. So since I'm a human being, I can pick human, and you can do this on the page with any weapon, shield, armor, everything. It's really great to get like any World of Warcraft gear reference. So now we have a human being holding the sword, which is giving me an in-game reference of how big the sword is intended to be on a human being. So now take a screenshot, then you need a program to work with. In my case here I'm using GIMP. GIMP is a very good free graphic program. I use it quite a lot, even though I do have the Adobe Photoshop. I'm very often using GIMP because I started working with GIMP and I'm just more familiar with all the tools and everything. So now I'm gonna scale my base layer up to a height of 175 centimeters, which is how tall I am. So now this layer is 175 centimeters tall. So now we're gonna insert our picture, add alpha canal, always the first thing you should do. So now we're gonna scale up the human being to the frame. Let's just take the head off first here so I can see better. So I'm cutting right at his top, right at his feet, it's just a rough cut. So now we're going to scale. So having his head on top of our frame. Not yet. Almost. So now there we go. So now the picture is scaled up. It's not fitting the sword, but that's no problem. We can easily move it, or I could make the screen bigger to fit the sword. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take out everything except for the sword itself, because we don't need the human and the background and everything. So now you can use all the different tools to get rid of the background and everything. I would recommend just using the snap tool and like just, you know, like going around all of the pieces, zoom in for the smaller edges. Like this is like just very quick and dirty for demonstration. You can just like go around everything. And once you've been all around it, you can then use either invert the area you've marked and delete all the things outside, or you just like use the selected and create a new layer with what you've selected. Both works. So once that is done, let's head over to this here. Look like something like this. And the next thing you do is, because technically you could print it right now, but you would print all the color inlay and infill and everything, and that would run through a lot of ink, and that's not very cost efficient. I mean, you could do it if you don't mind spending all the ink on printing it, but I would recommend taking a few more minutes, and just like we did before, you outline the area and then you go to work and then you say line after whatever I just marked, and then it will outline whatever you marked with a red line. And then you do that to the entire sword, and once that is done it will look something like this. Also make sure the area where you draw your lines is on a different layer, so you can take out the layer with the color and all that's left is your marked area. I just cut off the counterweight piece and the symbol of the horde symbol and placed them next to the sword to get them on a better printing size. So what I did then was I was just checking, okay, how big is an A4 sheet, and it's 210 by 297. And then I go to view, show grid. This is a square grid. Then I go to edit my grid, and 297 is good. I need 210 here. I say okay. Now you can see I have A4 sized grids. So now I know how and where to print it. For example, like these three here, I don't have to print these because there's nothing in it. So now you can just print it out and start working on it. And that's how easy you make a blueprint, with perfect symmetry, perfect sizing and everything. Once the blueprint is done, you can then print it. And once it's printed, you can start cutting it out. Then I was laying the pieces together, see that everything fits and the sizing was okay. Once that was done, I was tracing all my patterns onto the foam. Once I had all my shapes drawn onto the foam, I then started cutting the foam out. And for some other shapes I used the Dremel to shape it. And that's basically what I did. Cutting, dremeling. Like I said, I wasn't very experienced working with foam. Well, like, not very experienced. I wasn't experienced at all. This was like my first foam project I ever did. And I think it turned out okay. And the next thing was the shattered skin of the Ashbringer has like this floating area in front. And I was like, okay, how do I make this floating impression? And I was like, okay, I'll just use plexiglass. And since this sword is really long and really huge and the handle is all the way to the back, and you know, it's physics and leverage and everything, I was like, okay, I have a very long sword. So every weight is going to be on this side, it's going to make it really heavy. So I was like, okay, I'll go with some thin plexiglass. So I ordered this, which would be perfect due to the weight. But then I realized it was way too thin. So I then ordered some other thicknesses of plexiglass. And in the end I ended up with like a 10mm or even 12, I'm not sure, millimeter plexiglass, which is very heavy. And I was like, okay, the sword is gonna be heavy. If you have a very long sword which is that heavy, it would have been impossible to hold it straight without it hanging over on the front side. So I was okay, I really need, which the thing on the back literally is on like realistic swords and real swords, is a counterweight. And I was like, okay, I really do need some really counterweight. So what I did is I got a very thick, it's like literally the size of this end here, solid steel bar. Then I took the steel bar to a industrial metal lathe, and I know a lot of people don't have access, especially not at home, to a metal lathe. So, but what you can do is you can easily go to like just your friendly neighborhood metal worker, and they usually have some scraps over or leftovers and something like that, and you give them a few bucks and they will do that job for you. It's nothing complicated, so you can do that and support your local store. And what I did then was the metal was laid down in this cylindric shape, like on the back in here, to really fill this form, and it was then trimmed down to the size of the handle, going all the way to the middle of the handle. So I think like the steel bar alone has around 8 kilograms, so that gave me a good counterweight. I also lathed out like a screw part on the metal lathe, so I could drill a hole into the wooden staff, which I could then screw onto the back metal part, the counterweight. And so I had my counterweight, I had my wooden staff, and the reason why I continued with wood and not go all the way metal was because it's easier to work with wood than with metal. I then framed the plexiglass on both sides with this material, and then I connected it to the wooden shaft in the middle. So the base was finally completely assembled. Now I could start like adding all the foam pieces to it. The sword is entirely made out of foam, except for the handle wrapping and the back piece. This is both covered with Worbla, because it was easier to get the shape around it for me and have it a bit more sturdy. And once everything was glued together, the next thing I did was painting it. No, wait. I painted it before, I'm sorry. Yeah, I painted it first and glued it together then, because if I put it together first and painted, then I was risking to get paint on my plexiglass, on the acrylic, and I wanted to avoid that. So I painted it first and then I glued everything together. And these like, on the runes, this like shiny color, this is not a metal color. I stumbled across the color, I don't know how and where, but it's like, it's a nail gel which hardens with UV light, and I kind of like the idea, and like always I like experimenting with new things. So I bought this nail lacquer, a small UV light where you usually place over your hand so it gets dry and hardened, and I just applied it to the foam and it worked. The rest of the sword is then like basic acrylic colors. And then I made a huge mistake. Don't make the same mistake. I had the sword done and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna use a glossy primer to get it all finished and shiny. What happened then was I applied it and it looked good on the foam and it worked, and then I applied it to the front area. And what happened, the glossy primer turned my acrylic, which was completely clear at that time, into like a milk glass. I was like, what the yeah. I then went over through I was using my Dremel trying to get it clean. I was using some Q-tips and some alcohol trying to rub it clean, and nothing really worked. And I was like, oh my god, me. And which gave me the somewhat I'm okay with result, which you see right now. From another project I was working with carbon fiber, there was this ultra clear coat, which is not a spray clear coat, but it's more like a thickened one which you apply to the carbon fiber. And I was like, you know what, I try it, and if it doesn't work and it like dissolves my entire foam and everything, I mean I have to do it anyway again. So I tried it, and the moment I applied it, the acrylic turned as clear as it did, as you can see it here. And that's how I solved my problem. So don't put a clear coat on your acrylic glass, and if you do, well, now you maybe have a product that might help you to get it clear again. If you have any other options to get it clear, let me know in the comments. And also, I know this little thing right here will trigger a lot of people, but the last characters I played was on the Horde side. I see the people commenting, all the Horde players like, yeah, for the Horde. Actually, I started playing with the Alliance first, and then I quit playing World of Warcraft. I started again, I quit again, and I played over like 8 years. Let me know in the comments, how long did you play the game? Do you still play the game? Also, what's your character, what's your race, and what's your class? Let me know. So, since the last character I played was a Horde character, I was like, yeah, it's a nice gimmick, let's try it, let's do it. And yeah, I know it triggered a lot of people, but yeah, you know, it's creative freedom. Do what you like. Yeah, once everything was done, I was like, okay, where do I place it? So then I don't know if you can really see this because it's very huge and I had to readjust the camera. But I cut out a wooden frame in like a Horde style shape. I then applied some wood oil to give it a darker look. And I added some black and red outlines, measured like how I'm gonna place it, put everything together, and now I have my epic wooden Horde weapon stand for this epic Ashbringer. And this probably won't be the last World of Warcraft prop that I'll make, because I do love the game so much. I mean, the playing on the one side, the gameplay and playing it with your friends is so much fun, but also I like the designs of the armors and the weapons and everything. But it's always like time, money and place and space where to put it. But I'm planning on working on some other World of Warcraft projects. Let me know in the comments, what would you like to see me building? I know I'm late, but I promised a friend of mine to post a picture or a video or something where I'm really holding the sword. So I know it's been late, but this is what it looks like when you hold it. It's very heavy, and but due to the counterweight you actually can hold it. And yeah, in the end I don't really have to worry about the weight, because due to the material and the size and the weight, this thing will never see a convention. So yeah, it's not that I had to worry about carrying it around all day.
Run.
As always, if you liked the video, give me a thumbs up, smash that like button. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, it really helps me out. Hope you enjoyed the video and see you next time.